Oh, look at that.
Not
It's
half
just
pop
on
because-
midday.
Not half pop because out of Unit 1 into Unit 2. And how about a little bit of Dave D. Dozy Beacon, you know who, all right? That was my hero growing up. Never thinking I'd meet him, let alone work with him. The great.
I know. Tony Blackburn is incredible.
And Tony. Do you know, I've just realised something. You've broken my dream. I dreamt about Tony and Debbie last night. What the hell was that about? How weird. I dreamt.
Well, to be fair, they're a very
Tony
nice couple to dream about, I suppose. It's a bit odd they're in your dreams, but they're very nice.
They're gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. And Tony's every bit as delightful off as he is on. That's so weird. Do you know, it's like Grand Central Station here. Have you ever been to Grand Central? You've been to New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you went as a surprise to your mum and dad. Did you ever go to Grand Central Station?
I walked past it. I didn't go inside.
Oh my God, it's just stunning. Stunning. But when I went to live there, I didn't know where the hell I was going, left or right. And I asked the bloke at the ticket office, I said, could you tell me the way to Stanford or something, where I was living as well? And he went, you know what he said? This is such New York. He said, never bullshit a bullshitter. And I just stared at him. He obviously thought I was joking. I hadn't the faintest idea.
I mean, I would have thought that the correct response would have be something along the lines of, you're joking, right? Have a good afternoon, sir. But never mind. That would have just been the way I would have responded.
I needed the ticket. Right, let's bring on our first guest. We've got more guests than the Royal Albert Hall.
Sadly, I fear in a couple of weeks we will have more guests than the Royal Albert Hall, but let's not dwell on that. But anyway.
Oh, yeah, let's bring Fiona MacLeod. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, please don't thank us yet.
All
You'll be saying, what the hell? Why did I agree to this? Oh my God. How are you?
Not that we're trying to put you off from the get-go, Fiona, you understand. Anyway, one way or another, it's very nice to meet you.
Now, Fiona, let's cut to the chase. Why are you here, apart from to grace us with your presence?
No, so I'm from GamCare, which provides the National Gambling Helpline, which is a free helpline for those experiencing problem gambling, or for the family and friends of those that are maybe experiencing problem gambling.
Fiona, this is something that Phil and I bang on about. We feel really strongly, and when I was offered for you to come on, I grabbed it with both hands because I find it absolutely ludicrous, the laws in this country, and we need you and your organization. It's something I feel very, very strongly about.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of National Gambling Helpline, we do work with people that have got gambling problems, and I mean, I'm here today to talk about particularly over Christmas, being a really difficult time for people that are experiencing gambling problems. This weekend is, for a lot of people, payday weekend, which comes incredibly early than normal, and leaves a big gap between now and their next pay, and it makes it very difficult. This weekend, people might be tempted to spend that money gambling and then be left struggling then to pay for their children's presents, for food and all those other Christmas expenses.
Do you know, Fiona, one thing that I find absolutely staggering about the rules of this country is that we know how important it is to limit the amounts of salt that goes into food. That's why there are limits that are put in place by law that certain companies can't, over a certain 100 milligrams or whatever, can't put in as much salt as they maybe once did. So we know how to limit salt. We know how to tell people how many units of alcohol they should be drinking maximum before they're allowed to do anything. And yet when it comes to gambling, which is arguably super damaging on many different levels, we tell people just to be gambleaware.org and then suddenly it's up to you, it's all okay. Quite bizarre, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, next year we'll see the Gambling Act review come out, which will hopefully address a lot of these concerns and issues. At the moment, it's, we're just trying to raise awareness and also, get people to understand that actually that for a lot of people, gambling is still, is safe. But for some people, it does enter into, more problems. And it does have an impact on family and friends as well. Over 6 million Brits, we estimate, in this country know somebody with a gambling issue.
Sorry, over 6 million know somebody with a gambling issue.
Yeah, in this country, yeah. So our research shows that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So my dad was a huge gambler. I grew up with it. I grew up with it. I just thought it was normal. We'd go on a Sunday round to his bookmakers for lunch. I'm not joking. That's how much of he was a huge gambler.
But that's ridiculous. There's 63 million of us in this country. That's nigh on 10% of this country has something to do with gambling.
I mean, when you think about gambling now, it's online. A lot of gambling, especially, is online. So it's really accessible through a mobile phone.
Don't get me started. I can't tell you how much I despise the thought of that. Seriously, because what all that's doing is that's a bit like sort of handing over a tobacconist to somebody to run who's addicted to cigarettes.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that is that we do provide services online as well. So one of the things that we do through the helpline is that not only do we provide voice kind of talking, we do actually do online support. So for people that kind of don't want to necessarily, that have confidential issues or kind of more privacy, want some privacy, we can talk to people online through their phones. So, the option is there to, get support. And there's lots of things, actually. There's lots of things available to people to put in place to prevent them from gambling. They just are not aware of it. So, for instance, there's things like blocking software that they can download and put on their phones and their laptops. There's self-exclusion schemes. So there are actually a lot of tools that people can use that they might not be aware of. And so that's why we just want to encourage people to call the helpline, get some support and advice, and find out about all these kind of, accessible things.
Fiona, one of the things that Phil and I, that drives us both mad, we rarely agree on anything, but we really do agree on this, that if you're watching TV in the ad breaks, every damn ad break has at least 2, sometimes if not 3. I'm not going to mention any of the brands, but do this bingo, do this slots, and it's all on your phone, and it's all fun, and it's all great, and there's balloons and people laughing, and I'm going,
and best of all, if you get it wrong, we'll give you a free gamble.
I mean, it's like, why don't you just sell crack cocaine?
Yeah,
in between washing up liquid ads. I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah, a lot of our callers to the helpline do talk about how the advertising is particularly difficult for them. Absolutely, they and it can be a trigger. And again, hopefully, the Gambling Act review next year will address some of this.
Actually, Fiona, that's a really interesting point. So just talk us through some of the perspective of those who are on the receiving end of that, because I don't think I've ever actually asked someone who has got, I know that you don't per se have a gambling addiction, you understand, but I know you work with people who do. But those who are on the receiving end of those adverts, what does that do to them? It must be a horse and a carrot, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a trigger. I mean, thinking about, Christmas period, go back to the Christmas period, there is a lot of sporting events, isn't there, in quite a short space of time over Christmas, which it can be a trigger in itself. So for people that are not kind of, they're trying not to gamble, it's there in your face. And so, we're just trying to encourage people to kind of do something different. Gambling has such a detrimental impact on the person themselves. So, if you're trying, like you've said yourself, for some people it's okay, but for those that are really struggling around it, if you get paid this weekend and then go and blow it all on gambling when you should be buying presents and food, you're going to experience
or rent,
shame, depression, anxiety.
Sure.
And it's going to, it can be really difficult, and for the families as well that are sitting experiencing this and watching this.
What is your let's just I just want to get it done. How do people reach out to you?
Yeah,
so Phil's got a million. What is it?
Yeah, so I mean, you can do is you can either call the gambling helpline,
which is
the number's 0800.
Hang on. 0800. Yep.
0800 80 20 133.
Okay.
Or you can go on the website, and that's gamcare.org.uk. And by doing that, you'll be able to speak to an advisor, and it's free, confidential support. We're available 24 hours a day. We never shut down throughout the whole of Christmas and New Year. So, if you're really struggling and your family's sitting there, watching the greatest movies of all time, and you're sitting there really
Die Hard. Obviously, Christmas movie, Die Hard.
I
think mine's Disney A Christmas Carol, to be honest. But anyway, But okay, so let's just, for those who are listening on radio, by the way, and not necessarily watching this, we should say those details again. So you've got 0800 80 20 133 is the telephone number, 0800 80 20 133, and then the website is gamcare, gamcare.org.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we just want to encourage people to kind of contact us, you know, talk to us, whether, you know, you're struggling yourself, whether you're kind of, you know, you might have regrets about what you know, spending the money and now thinking what to do. You know, we can support you. So we just want to encourage you to call.
Bless you for doing this. One thing I would say, there's never, ever poor bookmakers. And there's never, ever a casino that goes bust, right? You're never going to beat the house.
Oh, actually,
ever.
I do know one that shut down, but I don't care too much about that one. But even so, the point is that
you're never going to beat the house, Phil.
No, never.
You know, speaking as
and also
Atlantic City, you ain't going to beat it.
I think that also what's worth sort of mentioning as well, I don't know how you feel about this, Fiona, whether or not you encourage this or not, but there are some people, obviously, when they sort of realize they have got a problem with gambling, one of the first things that comes over is maybe this sense of shame that they've somehow sort of really messed up in life. First and foremost, I'd say, well, you haven't. You just possibly have an addictive personality. And like most people with addictive personalities, they sometimes just go down a bit of a spiral and can't get back up again. But perhaps they don't have to give their name and their details if they want to remain anonymous initially when contacting you. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. People only have to tell us what they want us to know. So, you know, if people want to be anonymous, that's absolutely fine. We do get that, you know, we understand at GamCare that for everybody's, you know, people are struggling and they, you know, are filled with that guilt, shame, anxiety, you know, have a heavy impact on their lives. And so we're there to work with them no matter, you know, whatever they want to, you know, information they want to tell us. And it is all confidential. Absolutely.
Your organization is amazing. So bravo
Bless
to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for dashing onto the show. Really appreciate it. I know you're busier than Father Christmas at the moment, but thanks a lot. You've probably got another 28,000 shows to do.
Well, there's no need to get personal. But anyway,
all right.
But anyway,
Sarah,
farewell, Fiona. Thank you very much.
Fiona, thank you very, very much. Bye, Fiona.
Bye.
There we go.
This very quick. Look at this coming in from Colditz in Germany. This is from my old classmate, Richard Vero. Good morning from Colditz. Just a big shout out to all the poor people in Leitha and Visayas. Have I pronounced it right? It's as close as I'm going to get. Who lost their homes because of Typhoon Odette. Initial estimates, over 100,000 homes destroyed. Has it even made the news over here?
Crumbs. That's horrendous.
That's bloody awful, isn't it? Hi, Sam. Right. We've got more guests. We haven't got time to hang around. Haven't got time. Sarah Anderson.
Hello.
You're very, very. Is that somebody sitting quietly in the background?
Sarah, you have a supporting act with you.
You've got a support. Is that your bodyguard?
Husband.
Oh, hello, husband. Introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Terence Collis.
Ah,
Hello,
Terence, you're most welcome as well.
Now, Sarah, tell us all about yourself and why you are here. And thank you for waiting. It's been a busy old morning so far.
So I'm the chief executive of a charity called The Listening Place, and we provide free, sustained, face-to-face support for people who are suicidal by appointment in London. So anyone who is feeling suicidal from mild suicide ideation through to a recent attempt or active risk, we will be able to support them if they can reach our premises in London for face-to-face support and are an adult.
Now, can I ask something that's going to sound like I'm denigrating the good work you do, and I promise I don't mean to. Trust me when I ask this. Why would people go to, say, The Listening Place over, for example, the Samaritans, which many people might have heard of?
Yes, so the Samaritans, we all both offer suicide support, but Samaritans offers a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week helpline. And there is no continuity of support. So people will phone up, but they won't get the same person when they phone again. Oh. So with us, it's an appointment-based service. It's face-to-face, and it's with the same person each time.
How did this start? Well, it's a wonderful thing, by the way. It's absolutely fantastic. How did it start?
Actually, Terence and I were both Samaritans for very many years. I was Samaritan for 37 years. And
Wow.
in central London, they used to offer sustained face-to-face support in a similar way to the listening place. And they decided to discontinue that. And also, if you phone Samaritans now, you won't necessarily get a local branch. It offers the same support, but it will be more like a call centre. So we looked at what the gap in services was, and this was clearly a huge gap in services because we get over 500 referrals a month now.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Can I just say also, I think it's important to stress that we're not here to denigrate, obviously, what the Samaritans do either. Of course, it's essential, but it's just to compare so people get an understanding of the difference between. But
they're complementary services, and we refer people between appointments to Samaritans, and Samaritans refer people to us.
Excellent. Okay, so the two work in tandem. That's great.
How are you funded by this? Did you decide? Are you going to set it up, or did you get? Because this is not a cheap thing to do, is it?
No, big borrowing, stealing. We have most wonderful funders, supporters, and we started off the first year. It cost us £60,000, and which cost £250 per person we supported, and we're now up to £1 million a year, but it's still £250 a person supported, because we rely on the most incredibly well trained and selected volunteers, and we have 600 volunteers who see people 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is why our costs can remain low. And then the funders now are marvellous.
Now, Sarah, you said that you were a Samaritan for 37 years. Terence, did you? Was I imagining you were also Samaritan?
Yeah, I only managed 35 years. So
well, you absolutely wait. What's the matter with you? Seriously, for heaven's sakes. I mean, you have the audacity to come on here and pretend to know what you're talking about, and you can only manage 35 years. No, it's incredible. I'm
so much better, you know.
No, the pair of you to accumulate. The pair of you to accumulate 72 years worth of Samaritans is incredible. But might I just sort of ask from your perspective, because I've always sort of been curious about this. When someone is a Samaritan, you must hear some of the most harrowing things and the most awful stories from people. Who supports you? How do you deal with what you hear?
So the support we offer our volunteers is absolutely essential. So we work in shifts in very cohesive teams of people, 4 hours each through the day. And there is a supervising volunteer who will support and debrief our volunteers. We have a volunteer support team, and we have mental health professionals who give their time to us for free to actually support us and train us as well. So we couldn't do this work without huge amount of support.
But does there come a time when you say, I'm so sorry, Russ, I was just going to say, does it come a time when you have to step back and just say, I need a break, I can't do this for the moment?
If I give an example, I'm actually on shift tonight. I'm a supervising volunteer, and I've got a shift of 5 listening volunteers and a helping volunteer, and they'll all see 3 people during those 4 hours. And we've been doing this for 5 years now. And I'd say because we give them a chance to come out and talk, because they can talk to each other, because so they can talk to me about how it's going. It's amazing how people can cope with a lot if they've got others around to talk to about it. And that's what we do. We talk about how our visitors are getting on and how they're feeling, and people just get on with it. And of course, occasionally people's lives, it's more likely that people's own lives will overwhelm them while they're trying to do this, and they might have to take a break. But my volunteers on my shift have been doing this, most of them for over more than 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and they seem to cope.
And strangely, our volunteers constantly tell me they get more out of it than what they put in.
I can't believe that.
Interesting point.
Well, believe it.
How do people donate? Because I don't know if you saw that comment coming up from Kimmy.
Well,
but,
lovely. I mean, we have a website which is
do it slowly because I'm going to write it.
Okay.
www. We know that, right?
Yeah. Listening place.
One word.
Yeah.
That's
.org.
You wouldn't think I had A-level English. Listeningplace.org. Yep.
.uk.
Yep.
And any of your listeners, viewers who are interested in donating, we are incredibly grateful. I'm a volunteer CEO, so all the money goes on the front line. And also, if people are interested in volunteering, they need to have warmth, compassion, empathy, and resilience, and we can train them in the rest. And
how long would the training take?
So we
before
have
you were happy, because you've got to be happy because it's your name on the tin. So how long?
It is selective training, so it's selective at every stage. It's 7 3-hour modules plus mandatory modules before pre-selection, and then a further 2 modules after that given by mental health professionals. So it can be quite a quick process, but it's we are incredibly lucky. We get about 70 volunteer applications a month, and they tend to come from so much from word of mouth from our existing volunteers, as do incredibly a lot of our funds come from existing volunteers and people who have contacts.
Is that enough to sustain you? Because you said if you have about 500 referrals a month and 70 volunteers, I know obviously you don't necessarily take all of the 70 volunteers on, and of course you have existing staff. But what I mean is that do you have enough people to sustain the demand for the services?
Well, whenever our demand increases, which it does every single month, as more people hear about us, we increase. We run 2-3 training programs a month. We recruit more volunteers, and we find more space. And we've got a space in Westminster, in Camden, one near Victoria, one near King's Cross, and we're about to open in Hammersmith. So we just constantly juggle space, volunteers, and money. And we will make sure we always have a 24-hour response to anyone who makes a referral to us. And we see the person within 7 days. There is no point having a waiting list for people who are suicidal.
This is the thing that Phil and I, again, have been banging on about, because the NHS, I am not knocking the NHS, God knows. But, you know, if you are suicidal and they say, yeah, we'll see you in 6 months or 8 weeks, why don't you just say 8 centuries? I mean, you know, this isn't going to work out at all. It's so damn time critical.
And that's why we will always stick to a model of 24-hour response and 7-day. It's normally within 2 or 3 days of the first appointment, provided they can come in to see us.
Now, while you're both here, Mr. Slack with his 35 years and you with your 37 years, we've gone through, let's just say, 2 years of absolute hell with this pandemic nightmare. Has that had a direct effect on the number of people needing your services?
Yeah, we've had a 69% increase in referrals this year, and the increase for young people.
There's one of them now.
The increase for young people referrals is very, very big indeed. So,
define young people.
Sorry.
Define young people. Give us an age idea.
People under 25.
Okay.
So people who have struggled at university, people who don't necessarily see a job ahead of them. And we get referrals from about 65% of our referrals are from the NHS, but also from university counselling departments.
Oh, but do they bother? Do they blooming bother? I've had both my kids.
No, don't start. Now,
I am going to start. I'm sorry. Both my kids went to uni, and the pastoral care there was shocking. Absolutely non-existently shocking. Yeah,
I don't like to comment.
All right, well, you don't need to comment. I'm commenting on my behalf, not on anybody else's behalf. It's fine.
But I have to say that listening to that figure that you just gave of the increase, the percentage increase, I find myself sitting here just getting absolutely seething. I cannot understand why on earth no one has. If a simpleton like me can work out that this environment that we find ourselves in is bound to cause a problem for people's ability to deal with this mentally. And now there's talks of doing it all over again, as if we didn't learn enough from the beginning of 2021. We're now looking at the start of 2022, almost the same start to the year. Yeah. It just makes me fuming that the thought that a virus that sort of, okay, don't get me wrong, has wiped far too many people out of this planet for sure, is being put above the ability for millions more to actually cope with what we're being asked to do. I can't get my head around it. I can't get my head around that. The restrictions I'm reasonably strong-minded about, but that's what annoys me, is that the pressure that is put on everyday folk, and they're just sort of expected to get on with it. You know, it doesn't matter what happens to their lives.
And unfortunately, most of the mental health, a lot of the mental health services have now gone on to Zoom, and that there are very few face-to-face services. And for people who cannot talk confidentially at home, that's a real issue for them. So we've maintained a face-to-face service.
Do you know what? And Phil's just read my mind. I didn't even think of that they might be living in a situation where they can't go to a private room, get on their laptop and have an intimate and confidential conversation. Didn't even occur to me. Yeah. Do you know what? I got to say, all due credit to Phil. Phil and I have known each other for many, many years. And when this pandemic first came out, March, April 2020, he and I fell out.
March 2020, yeah.
March 2020, right? He and I fell out when we had the studio, which I closed because it was just not safe. He said, well, the side effects of this pandemic are going to be way worse. And I have to say, to his credit, I hadn't seen it. And then within a couple of weeks, I thought, you know what? Damn it, he's absolutely right. The side effects of all of this, the economy, and then the mental health side of it, has been exponential. It's just been huge.
And for so many people, it's not lonely, isolated people who kill themselves. It's people who don't want to continue being a burden on their family, their loved ones.
God.
And it is a really bleak situation out there. So that's why we only see people who are suicidal.
Now, I'm going to pick your brains while you're both here with your extraordinary experience. First of all, I just want to say on behalf of everybody at Men's Radio, certainly Phil and me, genius what you've done. Absolutely fantastic. You saw a comment from Alexander Lichtenfeld earlier. She's a Samaritan. She says what you do is wonderful, and she knows her onions, let me tell you. She also knows her martinis, by the way, but that's neither here nor there.
And after the lunch I've just had, I know my onions as well.
You know you shouldn't have eaten before you came on. What's the matter with the boy? He'll be phoning you later with indigestion crisis. Here's the thing. I think everyone's been affected by this. I think everybody. And have you had calls from people saying, I don't know why, I just feel anxious? Nothing specific. It's not. You don't think the sky's going to fall, but do people say that?
I think anxiety levels have increased dramatically during the pandemic, and really during the worst bit of the lockdown, then the majority of our people who were coming to us were citing the pandemic as one of their reasons for deteriorating mental health.
Can I make a comment about men, as we're on Men's Radio, which is that men traditionally find it difficult to talk about the way they feel and don't like to admit to anxiety and things. And I think there's obviously some truth in that. But one of the things I think we found is that sometimes men need to trust people, trust who they're talking to before they feel easy to unburden themselves or talk about difficult things. And the thing about the listening place is because you can see the same person over time and face to face, it really, really works for men because they have a chance to get trust in someone, whoever they are, whoever the person in front of them. And after a few sessions, begin to be able to talk in a way that they wouldn't have in any other way. It's a remarkable thing.
And because our service is 100% confidential.
Awesome.
And that is really, really important. We do both qualitative and quantitative research on what we do. And we know that so many people say it is the only place I can come and talk about suicide without fear of losing control.
Amazing work you do. Thank you both so much. Can we just double check so that just in case this was unclear at all, I assume from the point of use, the services people don't have to worry about maybe funding it, paying for it when they approach you.
All free.
Excellent
I
work.
think you two are absolutely stunning. Stunning.
Do you know what I'm
flesh
thinking
your
of?
bones.
You know those Pride of Britain awards that they do, the
Well,
Daily Mirror. Why are you not there?
Yeah,
That's
you
exactly.
guys there?
Well, come and volunteer with us, and
We've all got to admire tax avoiding multimillionaires.
it's only
Didn't you
4
get the
hours.
memo?
The commitment for volunteers is only 4 hours a fortnight. So please,
Yeah, but then you could get Phil, and if you were feeling depressed beforehand, Jesus.
You've got to be very careful. Sarah Anderson, Terence Collis, you two
Would you
are
guys
remarkable.
would you
Yes,
back?
come back. Will you come back to
Would you
speak
come
to us?
back?
We will.
You're extraordinary
Fantastic.
people. Bless you
Thank
both.
you so much. Keep well. Farewell. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Amazing
we haven't got
stuff.
time to dilly. We've got
No,
another guest.
next.
No, hang on a second. I just want to put up this comment. This is from Alex. Chantal, go and have a coffee up here.
Yeah, Chantal, we'll be with you in a tick. Don't worry. Just
says,
stay there. We haven't forgotten you.
Alex says this. I'm a Samaritan, but on sabbatical while I work with Hearts Constabulary as a listening ear volunteer chaplain. Blimey. Like the listening place, this is face-to-face, which makes such a difference. What Sarah has achieved in setting up the listening place is truly amazing. I salute her and all who volunteer. And she knows her onions. Right. Let's crack on. Let's
Johann Ilgenfritz.
Johann, hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Look at you. You're in a
very good afternoon to you.
Blimey.
Gracious me.
Phil,
I feel like we're
change.
in the presence of a Bond villain.
Phil, get changed. Get a tie, for God's sake. Quick.
Can I just say, I make that sound like a bad thing. I've always aspired to be a Bond villain. I don't care what anyone says. It's the best part. Anyway.
Johann, thank you so much for joining us. It's been like Victoria Station today. I apologize if we've kept you waiting. Apologizing to Chantal Rickards, who's had to go back into hair and makeup now, obviously, to sort her Right.
Johann, can I just point out, so I was reading the notes before,
Yes.
when I'm sort of slightly dumbfounded at what sort of people are able to cope with whatever's thrown at them. The particular line that stood out to me, your life changed around 2011 when you not only had a heart attack, but then 6 months later you were diagnosed with cancer. How on earth does someone bounce back from not one, but two major life-changing events? You are an extraordinary human. I haven't even spoken to you yet.
Hello, Phil. It's not. It's just a will to live. I think that's the main thing. I've always loved life, and I've always loved being here and doing things, and I think that was the reason for that fight that I put up. 2 cancer diagnoses in the end.
Oh
Oh
my
my
goodness me!
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
So yeah, but it's it I don't know. It sounds so unbelievable, but it's not really when you're in it. It's and it's. I always try and explain it like this. What started out as a health issue, a crisis, almost turned into a life purpose. So it's not all bad.
In what
It's
way?
the
I've had
exact
too much.
opposite,
Johann, I've had too much experience of this in the family.
Yeah.
In what way? Because we just had it as a crisis, and that was it. It was
Yeah.
horrible. So, how did you manage to turn something which is as bad as it gets into something? I'm going to use a ridiculous phrase, into a positive, if you like.
Well,
Cliche.
It took me from I used to be a fashion photographer, loved it, lived the life, the whole thing. And it unknowingly, it took me from that to where I am now. I always explain it this way. Mark Twain, it's not from me, this, unfortunately. It's from Mark Twain. He always says 2 important days in every person's life: the day you're born and the day you find out why. And that's literally what's happened to me. I found out why.
Love it.
I was here. So purpose. I think purpose is the only way I can explain it.
So what is your fashion photography? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves. What a wonderful career. But what is your I would have been happy with that, to be honest with you, if I was good. So what is your purpose? What
Well, I was happy with that. My purpose now is my company, is UK Health Radio. It's helping people, as many people as possible, on as many levels as possible, through sending people information, broadcasting information, good quality, true information, without withholding information from anybody. So not only one side of the story, all aspects of health and wellness. That's my purpose. It's actually, the press have actually given me the perfect name, and that's the Curator of Health Expertise. And that's exactly what I do. I find, I get information from our listeners who want information on certain areas of health. I go out, I find health professionals in those areas. We train them because they're not radio presenters, they are health professionals, as I mentioned. We train them, and then we get them on the radio to serve our listeners.
Love it.
So,
In a
it's a
nutshell.
great idea. If only we'd had that idea, Phil.
Yeah, I know. It's only if we
Boy,
thought of something
if
like
only
that.
I'd have thought of starting with Howard Jameson men's radio station in January 2019 to try and help. Never occurred to us.
Wonderful.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Who'd have
that's
thought?
wonderful.
No, but
You've
you know what?
got something like 3 million
Yeah.
listeners or something insane,
Uh,
haven't you? You've got something huge. That's why I reached out to you, because it's
Yeah,
massive what
no,
you've got.
3 million is it's not quite true. 1.2 million listeners we have at the moment.
Oh, small fry. I mean, I had to hear you. So.
Who cares? Radio 4 would kill for that. Are you kidding me? They would. So are you on 24 hours a
Allegedly.
day? What's the deal with you guys? Are you on
Yeah,
24
we're on
hours a day? Johan?
24 hours a day. We have 40 presenters doing.
No,
broad-
Phil, you're not
broad-
leaving.
What?
Make
Excuse
it
me. I never
41.
said a thing.
No, I know. He said 40 presenters, and already I can hear that. We could make it 41. Another job for me. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 40
So you got-
presenters doing, giving our listeners information in different areas of health, as I mentioned before, 24/7, 24 hours a day. Listen on demand. We have a listen on demand section, as you guys as well.
Mm-hmm.
People can listen to us either like on the normal web, on our app, on Alexa. YouTube is coming. It's on already, but we're busy building it, and shortly we'll be broadcasting as well through Spotify. So really looking forward to that as well. So yeah, that's how we do it.
It's great. And what's been the most demand? What do people most want to get into?
It's I think it's really hard to say because all our shows are really well listened to, but I think the diabetes, mental health has just grown out of proportion in the last 18 months. Of course,
There you go.
We have a special dedicated show for mental health, and we have another magazine type show that features mental health quite often. But everything, cancer, as I said, diabetes, fertility is huge, menopause is massive. So yeah, those are. If I could just quickly go over it. There's even pet health. We have a pet health show which is so popular. It's unbelievable.
I love that. Love it.
A what show? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Pet health.
Pet health.
Oh, pet health. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Blimey. Kidding me this year? Blimey, yeah. Absolutely. Listen, you are a shining... God, sometimes we get guests who come on, and today's been an absolute parade of them. And Phil and I feel like that big because they're just exemplary human beings. And you have... there you were as a fashion photographer. Life deals you a really shitty set of cards, and you think, no, I'm going to turn that into something really positive.
Yeah.
And that is, you can't wish for anything more in a human being than that. Seriously, it's as good as it gets, Johann. It really is.
Thank
Mean it.
you.
No.
It's all about mind shifts. I think anybody can do it if they really want to. I went from believing that cancer was the cause of my illness to realizing that it was a symptom of a sick body, so cause and effect. And I mean, as you know, that's a natural law. You change the cause, you change the effect. So yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky that I could change the cause. That did change the effect in the end. So.
And we haven't even had a chance to compare notes on good old SA, but let's not dwell on South Africa now, because hopefully that'll be the next time we get you back on as well.
Will you come back? Would you come back?
I'd love to come back. I'm such a big fan of your station. I really am.
Oh, thank you. Well,
thank you very much.
We're very happy that you agreed to speak to us.
At least we've got one fan. No, bless you. Thank you so, Johann. Thank you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. It's remarkable. Really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
We will have you back in the new year. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil.
So, he was going to say, have a lovely day, I'm sure, and we will do. We wish you. We wish you.
I'm so sorry. I'm too quick on. Thank God I haven't got my finger on the nuclear trigger. I'd have wiped out Moscow by now.
I was just going to say, have a lovely Christmas and a fantastic, healthy start and a whole 2022 for everybody.
Please.
And Alice van die Beste to you as well, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Get you with your international ways. Bye, Johann.
That's just Afrikaans for all the best. So it's literally the only Afrikaans I know is Alice van die.
Can we welcome Chantal Rickards in Afrikaans?
You may be able to, but I can't say it.
What you do? Welcome. Shit, I forget it. I can't remember.
Gracious me, that wasn't him. At least bit embarrassing. Right,
no,
thank you.
That was horrendous. That was absolutely so crap. Even I'm embarrassed. Chantal, thank you. I know you went off. You made a 3-course meal.
Genuinely, I don't even know how you can live with yourself right about now. But anyway,
very good. I'm impressed.
No, he is. He does a good. That's how he actually speaks.
It's half my family talk like that. So
that's his real voice. Off air.
It's where half my family come from.
I'm going to be unavailable next week. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do. Right, that's him.
No, you come from the deepest, darkest part of Zimbabwe, by the sound of it.
I do.
Anyway,
Zimbabwe. But, yeah.
Anyway.
Chantal,
seeing as we've kept you waiting so long, and I'm sure that you've done more than enough research for us this week. What have you got for us? Let's dive straight in at the deep end.
Well, I'm going to take you straight from South Africa to Mansfield, which was a bit of a sort of, head wrench to get from somewhere so beautiful to somewhere that's probably not particularly beautiful.
Sorry to any of Manfieldians who are listening right now. Sorry about that.
Indeed. But actually, it is where most of the story of Sky's new series, The Landscapers, takes part. I looked at the headline and the title of this, and I thought, The Landscapers, this is not me. This sounds like it should be on sort of UK TV gardening program.
Home, as it's called now, but yes,
indeed, it absolutely is. But actually, it's sort of set out rather like a Jolly Jape, but the subject matter is not really Jolly Jape material because it's about the murder of 2 elderly parents and being buried in the back of the garden.
Crumbs.
You then cut to 10 years later where you find the glorious Olivia Colman and
Olivia Colman.
David Thewlis. She is the daughter of these parents. He clearly is the son-in-law of the people buried in the back garden. And they are sort of hiding out in northern France, living a rather impoverished life. They've come to the end of their money. By the way, this is a true story. They have come to the end of their money.
I didn't have Olivia Colman down as the murdering type, to be honest.
No, she's got shifty eyes. She's got shifty eyes, Chantal. Yeah. I knew it all along. I knew there was something up with her.
Possibly. But this is why it comes across as a sort of Jolly Jape comedy. And you're thinking, hang on a second. You know from the get-go that it's a true story. So when you meet Olivia Colman and her husband, David Thewlis, you think this just doesn't quite ring true. They're rather sort of scatty people. They're rather gentle. They're ambling through life in this rather weird little way. She collects, sort of Hollywood posters. Anyway, they run out of money. She phones her aunt and tells her aunt on the phone in a rather matter-of-fact way that she buried her parents in the back of the garden. To which the aunt then thinks, well, this is a bit of a rum do, phones the local police in Mansfield and says, I think you better investigate this. So without giving too much of the story away, the Mansfield police, clearly not the brightest, but it actually the best, phone them and say, would you like to come back to Mansfield to talk to us about this? So they go, well, if you send us a ticket, we'll come. Because we haven't got
are you kidding me?
So buy us a ticket and we'll come. I'm going to not tell you any more than that, other than...
That's one hell of a tease, but I would just... sorry, you're giving them the choice of coming back on. Wow. Okay. Fine.
If you
right.
feel like coming back to discuss a double murder, do. If you
Oh,
can't be
it's-
bothered,
yeah.
don't worry about it. What the hell?
Absolutely,
Roses are
absolutely
looking good.
no pressure on our part.
But of course, the whole point
load
is
of
you don't know
piss.
what's happened. You don't know the build up to it. You don't know whether she's actually guilty or not, or whether the husband is guilty or not. And then they start playing the backstory of these two people and how they meet. And then you find out the story of the parents. And I haven't got to the end, but my God, I'm going to sit down this afternoon and watch the end of it. It's in 4 parts, 4 45-minute programs on Sky. And it's glorious drama. It's incredibly well written. The 2 lead actors, I mean, you forget everybody else because they are so good on the screen. And it is a brilliant watch. So I think it's got something like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's British made. It's made by Sky Productions. And it's really worth watching. So if you've got nothing else to do this weekend, or whilst you're making your mince pies, put the telly on in the background and make the mince pies and watch this perfect 4-part drama.
Chantal, I love your world. Whilst you make the mince pie, no, they've been bought already. We make the mince pies indeed, but I love the
you've got
thought.
to make mince pies.
I love the thought of making them. It's more the time, but anyway, Ramsey, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I know Channel 4 are daring, but
Now look, if this isn't a money-making show, this is from Ramsey Waimasalam, yet another, Chantal, of his great ideas in a series, frankly, that have kept you employed for the last 30 years. Strictly Making Love.
he says it's like Strictly Come Dancing. Thank God you changed. Thank God you changed the original name. But instead of couples dancing, they make love in front of a panel of 4 experts who mark their performance out of 10 as the penny drops.
Such a bad idea.
If it works, yeah, you could even have a celebrity version. Lovely. Ramsey, I don't know whether or not it's a top tenner, but hey, why not indeed? Go for it.
But strangely, there is a program like that on television at the moment, and I think it's on Channel 4 because a journalist goes along and sits in the room whilst people are making love. And I don't think they get scores. Somebody scores.
What's it called? I'm a pervert. Get me out of here.
I have no idea. I came across it by accident and I very quickly swapped channels.
Disgusting. Can I recommend this very, very quickly?
Yes,
two series of it. 3, they're 90 minutes each. It's set in Vienna in 1907.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Just fantastic. I'm absolutely gripped. The production values are terrific. If you like whodunits in a kind of Sherlock Holmes type of way, it looks gorgeous. The stories are good. The scripts are good. It looks like $1 billion on screen. It's called Vienna Blood. It's on the BBC iPlayer. There's only 6 of them. They're 1.5 hours each. And what fascinates me is the leading character, who is a young doctor becoming a psychiatrist. Every time I see him, I think it's Phil. I think it's Phil, especially because he wears Phil's hat. And
he sent me a photo of this the other day. It doesn't look a thing like me.
It is. I can't get over it. He even talks like Phil, which is hilarious. Anyway, it's Vienna Blood. It's really, really, it's very good. Anyway, that's me. I'll shut up.
Right, hang on, just cotton picking second, okay? We're not getting off that easily, okay?
Yes, I am getting
right.
off that easily.
No.
We have an OBE special weekly guest.
No, I know.
You're cutting into her time.
No, it's not that I'm cut. It's not. I mean to cut into time, but what I want to do is I want to just sort of call up on the screen this image that you sent me, and we'll get Chantal's opinion, shall we? Because she's the voice of all reason, and I'm sure she'll tell us whether or not that this is the case or not. So this is who Russ thinks looks like me. I don't see it personally, but whatever.
Right, I'm going to have to look on my iPad, which is to my left.
Okay, right. So hang on. Here we go. Right, there we are.
Is that not Phil Dave in the hat in the middle? That is Phil Dave. Sorry, it's Phil. It's Phil. So the guy in the bowler hat is the detective that he partners up with, much to the detective's reluctance, and then Phil Dave comes in with his immaculate coat and hat to save the day. That's basically it.
Absolutely not. I think you've been clearly smoking something peculiar before you.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you.
Yes, obviously.
I'm much better looking. Anyway, right. What?
Well,
I'm
talking
joking.
about smoking something peculiar, not that I am inferring that this person has been smoking something peculiar, but his behavior has been very peculiar. And normally we don't really hear about the bad side of Hollywood, and we don't hear about how tricky actors are tricky on set and difficult
mostly
to be with.
horrible.
But there is a very interesting documentary out at the moment called Val, as in Val Kilmer, who is a very famous Hollywood actor. You will probably remember him as Iceman in Top Gun.
You can
And
be
he
my
was
wingman
also-
anytime.
He was also Batman in Batman Forever, a role that he absolutely hated because it covered, the mask covered most of his face. And it also covered his ears. It was a complete, a total solid head mask.
That's why I'm sort of hating these baubles at the moment. They're covering most of my face. I'm not feeling
we're loving
this.
it. We're loving them, to be honest.
I'm doing my impression of the Terminator.
Very good. But actually,
Okay.
as an actor, you want people to see your face. You want you express yourself through your eyes and your cheeks and your mouth. But actually, all anybody could see of him was his mouth. He said he felt like it was a sort of being in a cage when he was wearing the mask because he couldn't hear people because it was solid black latex pressed up very close against his face. So he notoriously hated the role. But actually, he got a reputation as being very, very difficult to work with. I think the director actually referred to him afterwards as childish and impossible. And these are phrases you never generally hear in Hollywood, people being disparaging about other people publicly in such a way. He was alleged to have hurt one of the cameramen by stubbing out a cigarette on him. He's clearly a complicated man. A complicated
Grums.
But this documentary is very different because it's basically, he's made it. It's all his footage. He shot everything, or other people around him have shot all of this footage. And he's ended up in a very, very sorry space. He's lost his voice. He had cancer of the throat a few years ago, which was kept quiet at the time. And then it was announced that he had got cancer of the throat. A lot of his voice box is gone. But the whole thing is voiced by his son, Jack, as if it's the father's voice. And actually, the son's voice is very similar to Val Kilmer's voice.
Oh, I have heard about this.
It's rather disjointed. It's not the best documentary on the planet. But when you know the sort of the backstory of this actor, and you have to take allowances for, I think, probably mental health issues, which aren't really talked about, but there's probably something that's been going on in this guy's life to have made him the way that he is. It's sort of interesting. If you're not really a Val Kilmer fan, you might not get anything out of it.
I really am, because he was great in Heat. He was terrific in Heat.
Absolutely.
Remember that? That was fabulous. He was marvelous in that.
He was.
I thought he was terrific, but they, you on YouTube, you always get the "what the hell happened to?" There's loads of those. Whatever happened to? And they just have him. He obviously battled with weight because he went from looking like an absolute sort of Greek god to like, blimey, are you living in Greg's the Baker's or what? He looked very unfit, which it's so easy to mock.
Famously fell out with Marlon Brando. I mean, it's sort of crazy stuff. He was called Mr. Unpopularity. So it's sort of an interesting side of Hollywood. And he's a very big man now. He's sort of Marlon Brando size. And then you get cutbacks to his beautiful looks as a younger man.
He was so handsome. He was very handsome.
He was. So it's they've put it forward for the awards season. Clearly, we are in the middle of awards season. People like me who are BAFTA members, we're being sent different films every day to look at documentaries as well as motion pictures to watch, so that we are there ready. How
are they, Chantal, how are they doing that these days? I don't even know.
Can I just say, I'm so pleased you said that, because I was just about to say, I know someone else who's also BAFTA, and she's really getting very grumpy about the fact they don't send DVDs out anymore. It's all done online and through links and stuff, and she hates it, and she's calling on me to help with the technology. But anyway, she's getting very fed up of it.
They've built a very swanky new website, and indeed, all of us now have to watch everything online. You can watch everything and vote in every category if you want, or you can watch a limited number. So everybody is given a specific number, I think 20, that they have to watch. Because I think there are about 150 on the website at the moment that, that will be rated, basically, and the top ones will bubble to the top, and the bottom ones you probably won't hear much about again. So it's done in a very good way, and it's a hell of a lot of work. And this is a documentary that clearly the makers of it are hoping will get awards. I somewhat doubt it, but you never quite know. Never quite know.
Where can we watch it?
So at the moment it's on Sky, and it's also going to be on Amazon Prime. I don't know if it's arrived on Amazon Prime yet, but it's on Sky Documentaries at the moment. I don't think
it's turned up on Amazon Prime yet.
Okay. So look on Sky Documentaries if you've got Sky.
I haven't.
Superb.
That's good.
And then very quickly, I'll rattle through 2 quick dramas that I think are worth watching. Just come to an end. You Don't Know Me on the BBC. It's a 4-part drama. Pretty easy to watch. Very, very interesting young man who plays a defendant who defends himself in a court of law. He's a South London boy. He's a person of colour. He is accused of killing another bad lad from South London. There's a backstory about drugs, but the young man in question who's in the dock is very well turned out. He's got a great job, but suddenly finds himself defending himself for murder. It's rather well done. He's a very, very good young actor who I didn't really know. It comes from a book that was brought out 4 or 5 years ago, and it's been well thought of by the people who've watched it. So if you like a sort of crime drama that is basically about this young man in the dock, a legal drama, then this is the one to watch. It's called You Don't Know Me, and it's on the BBC. The other thing to watch is something called Close to Me on Channel 4, which is an extraordinary piece with Connie Nielsen, who I love, who's sort of re-emerged as a more famous actress than she was in the past, in Wonder Woman in recent years. And she still looks absolutely beautiful, Danish actress.
Oh, yes, she played Wonder Woman's mum.
And she is married to Christopher Eccleston. Yes, indeed. She's Wonder Woman's mum, and she is married to Christopher Eccleston. And all I'll tell you is that
no, hang on, stop, because I've taken a stupid pill this morning. In real life or in the show? She's married
in the show.
Okay.
She is married to Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
At the beginning of the show, you find her in hospital. She has fallen down a flight of stairs, and she comes out of hospital. She cannot remember anything that's happened in the previous year. She doesn't know how she fell down the stairs. So there's a whole story to play out. Christopher Eccleston, is an actor we love, but we don't quite know what his motive may have been. Was he in the house when it happened?
Well, you know why this has happened. Wonder Woman's mum marries Doctor Who. There's going to be a problem.
There's definitely
it's a complicated relationship, Chantal. You can't, he's time traveling. She's saving the world. What the hell? They're busy people.
I've always thought that stairs are wrong on so many levels. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Chantal. Because I fear that we are out of time, but I just want to say personal thanks. I'm not here next week, so if you are around with Russ, then I'll leave you to the last show of the year with him. But thank you so much for all the time that you've given speaking to putting up with the nonsense that we've done in 2021. I really, really do appreciate it. And I know
great pleasure. Well. Happy holidays.
Indeed.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays.
Well, they were happy. Anyway.
Until I started singing.
Have a great Christmas and a great New Year, Chantal.
See you next week.
He'll speak to you next week, and I'll speak to you in 2022. All being well. Goodbye. There we go.
Great. We love Chantal.
Of course. We know that already.
Great. So you're not around next week.
I'm not, I'm afraid. A change in work schedule means that I'm afraid that I won't be able to join you for the last week on Men's Radio for 2021. But if I might take a little moment just to say thank you to all the incredible guests who have put up with the nonsense that Russ and I throw at them over the past 12 months. It's been such a privilege. Seriously, I'm not just saying it. There's a reason why I stand by this program is because it's a huge honor to be a part of it. So, RK, thank you very much as well for putting up with me. And
Don't be daft.
to anyone and everyone, thank you very
I
much for
hate it when
listening, for
you're
your
sincere.
comments.
I hate it
I
when you're
am
sincere.
sincere.
It makes me feel very uncomfortable. I don't like it when you're taking the piss.
But I'd suggest that you have yourself a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very much to all our guests from today. Of course, Fiona McLeod from GamCare, Sarah Anderson and Terence Collis from The Listening Place. We had Johann Ilgenfritz from UK Health Radio. And of course, Chantal Rickards OBE. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah,
terrific as ever. He'll see you on Monday. I'll see you, all being well, in 2022. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everybody. Have fun. Stay out of trouble.